the one, the only, Ben Sion. Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Daily Double as we continue Masechah Sukkah, Parakeh, Mishnayos, Vav and Zayin. Tomorrow will be the last shir of Masechah Sukkah. We'll finish the last Mishnah tomorrow and start Masechah's Beitza. Discuss that more in Masechah Beitza, how you pronounce it. Let's start the last two Mishnayos over here in the third and the second last Mishnah. Mishnah Vav in Parakeh says, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag, Hayusham Shlosha Asar Parim, Ve'elim Shneim Asar, Ve'elim Shnayim, V'sa Yer Echad. Right, there were special karbonos brought on Sukkot. Everyone knows about the Parim, right? The Parim, there's the bulls that were brought on Sukkot that were connected to Umos HaOlam. 70 bulls are brought, a special carbon on Sukkot. So, and combined, they were brought with one ayil, two rams, and one sawyer, one goat. Besides that, they had regular carbon musafs of every yontiv, and the carbon musafs of every yontiv, there were 14 kvasim, and every day there were 14 kvasim. So in total, on the first day you had 16 plus another 14, which is 30, and there were only 24 mishmaros, only 24 groups of kohanim. We're going to see in the next mishnah that during the regalim, karbanos that were specific for the regel, all the mishmaros divided up the work between them. So, the shmona mishmaros, right? So there were 8 mishmaros left to have 14 kvasim. There were six extra karbanos. How do you divide it up? Ayom Arish on the first day, Shisha Makrim and Shnaim Shnaim. There were two groups, 2 mishmaros that brought 2 karbanos. V'ashar echad echad. The rest brought 1. B'sheni. Second day, when the parim went down from 12 to 11, from 13 to 12, there was 1 last karban. So, Chamisha Makrim Shnaim Shnaim. 2 groups would bring 2 karbanos each. V'ashar echad echad. V'ashlishi. The third day, when there was 11 parim, Arba Makrim Shnaim Shnaim. 4 groups would bring 2. V'ashar echad echad. B'ravi Shlosha Makrim Shnaim Shnaim. V'ashar echad echad. Chamisha Shnaim Makrim Shnaim Shnaim. The fifth day, 2 groups were able to bring 2 karbanos. V'ashar echad echad. B'shishi echad Makrim Shnaim. V'ashar echad echad. B'shvi Kul and Shavin. On the Shvi, there were exactly 24 karbanos, so therefore there were no problems. Each mishmar got a korban. But Shmini Aseres Chazul L'Payis Kibragal. Shmini Aseres is considered its own yontiv. It's not connected in most ways. The Gemara says in many different ways it's not connected to Sukkot. It's called Shmini, the 8th day, but really it's called Atzeres. It's its own holiday. So therefore, when they had their karbanos, there weren't enough karbanos for the 24 mishmaros. So therefore, they went back to a lottery. There were no parim. Maybe there's 1 par brought on Shmini Aseres, but there were no 13 to 7 parim. So therefore, they went back to a lottery. The first 7 days of Sukkot, right? There were only 13 parim the first day, 12 the second day, 11 the third day, etc. So whoever bought a par one day, that mishmar could not bring a par the next day. He couldn't bring a par the next day. The next day, if he was going to bring, right, if you're bringing the parim, probably you had an extra karban. Even if you had an extra karban, you would not go back to the par, because the par was considered the more significant karban. A par is worth a lot more than a sheep, and therefore you go to the kvasim until it came your turn again. Zayin b'shlosha ma'prakim b'shana, you call mishmar shavas b'mur. There were 13 times during the year, 3 times during the year, during the regalim, that all the mishmaros were the same. They all divided the work in the base of Mikdash equally, and also the dividends, right? Some karbanos, lechem aponim, shlamim, chatas, the kohanim got to eat it. They divided equally among all the mishmaros. What were those? B'mur regalim, the karbanos that were specific for the regal. Uvechiluk lechem aponim. Chiluk lechem aponim, meaning normally the mishmar that served that Shabbos would get all the lechem aponim. However, if Shabbos fell out during Yontiv, so then they would all divide equally. Batzeres, and during Shavuos, if Shavuos fell out on Shabbos, Helach Matzah, Helach Chametz, Batzeres is one of the regalim, so they all divided equally. They divided equally the Shtei Lechem, which was made out of Chametz, and also they divided up the matzah, right? The lechem panim were technically considered matzah. They weren't actually given the time to rise 18 minutes. So they would get both a portion of matzah and chametz, but they would not No one can say I want 2 portions of matzah and 1 chametz because the Gemara explains it has to be equal from each korban. Mishpash is mano kavua hu makriv tmidin nedarim unedavu shar korbanos sibur. Even during the regel, all the mishmaros didn't split up all the korbanos. They only split up the korbanos that were specific to that regel. Therefore, the korban tamid, which is brought every day, and nedarim unedavos, right? Anyone, a goodwill, a free will offering that was brought, they happened to bring it during the regel. Shar korbanos sibur. This includes korbanos like a par helm davar shal sibur. If Beis Din made a mistake, a Kohen Gadol made a mistake, they brought a korban. El makriv as a kol, even case of mizbeach. Korbanos, we learn in Succah shkalim, when the mizbeach is batel, there's no korbanos, you bring specific korbanos. That was only brought by the mishmar that served during the mikveh. No, it was during the regel, and whatever dividends they got, they would get to eat. Yom tov asamach l'shabbos yom faneh melachareh you kol mishmar l'shabbos b'chil lechem hapanim. Now, there's one addendum over here that even if the Shabbos didn't fall out during Yom Tov, if Shabbos fell out, let's say Shabbos, and then Yom Tov started on Sunday, so all the mishmaros came to the Beis Hamikdash for the regalim. They couldn't come after Shabbos. They wanted to be there for the first day of the regel. So they have to come before Shabbos. They would be in Yerushalayim, in the Beis Hamikdash, for that Shabbos. So they also divided lechem upon him. And similarly, if Yom Tov ended on a Friday and the next day was Shabbos, they couldn't depart until after Shabbos. Therefore, they had to be there. So therefore, they would divide up the lechem upon him equally during those 2 Shabbosos, even though they weren't technically during the regel. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian Mitzion when I talk about quantity versus quality in halacha. Ian Mitzion coming up next.